Okay, so we're almost done. Let's go ahead and just quickly finish this one off. And yeah, actually for this one, we can once again just kind of like leave it over here. It also sometimes makes sense when you have the walls on like roughly the same location, because then it will feel like it's a support wall. Like it's also going to be like the outer wall over here. In English you often call it load-bearing walls, I believe. Yeah, load-bearing walls, which basically means so you often have two type of walls in a building. You have the normal walls, which basically they do not hold a lot of weight, and you could knock them down without actually destroying the building. And you have load-bearing walls, where if you knock those down, then of course the building has a chance to collapse. So it is nice to know that there are these two different ones. And often what you see with multi-story buildings is that if it is a load-bearing wall, the wall will be on the same location on every single floor. So there you go, that's a little bit of advice that I did not even learn during 3D. I learned that because I was renovating a house one day. So that's how I learned that trick. But it is good to know. So you just know that if you want to have like a load-bearing wall, that you would need to continue that wall on multiple different stories. The only thing that I cannot tell you is how to identify which ones are load-bearing by looking at an image. I think that would be very difficult. So, but anyway, for us, we don't need to go that complex. We can just go ahead and go here. And then this one I will make like super small. I will make it like go here and maybe like just move it down a little bit. But for now, let's go ahead and do this. Just want to double check. Yeah, okay, that's correct. See how many use cases all of these things have, like this one for example over here. So what we can do with this one is for the top, we can just make it like a concrete. And then from the bottom, what we can do is, because this one will always be at the bottom, is we can just make it like a office tiles or just something like that. So that will be quite nice. Now last one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's have this one over here. I think that would be nice to at least have like one of them sitting like this. And let's just only do it like two. As I said before, I just want to make this one quite small. So let's only have two of them. Push them back. And then this one is just kind of like going in here. And that's pretty much it. Doesn't need to be anything too special. Because most of these stores, I will just do like some super generic level art. I'm just gonna cheat a little bit and just move this down. So yeah, most of these stores, I'm just going to do super generic level art, which means I'm just going to place like a few seatings, a few bookcases, and just leave it like that. Because right now, I'm not so much focused on having a full-on environment. 1 second, sorry. On having a full-on environment that's perfectly walkable and you can go in every single room and everything will look perfect, because I simply do not have the time for that. So this is where I'm saving a little bit of time myself, just by making this a bit easier. Whenever I have something like that, it feels a little bit overkill for me to duplicate the entire ceiling when I can just quickly move it forward a little bit. See? And there we go. So as you can see, it looks really nice and clean as a blockout. So that's great. Now what we're going to do is we are going to probably get started with like the difficult part, which is going to be this part. So we want to go ahead and we want to get started with like creating almost like a bend like this. And the first thing that I notice is that I do not have enough space. Like one of them is not enough. I want to probably have at least two. So what I will do is I will just go ahead and make these walls a little bit larger, especially because I want to have escalators here. So with one of them, I would not even have proper space for like an escalator and then still space for people to walk. So let's just do this. The bottom one, yeah, you know what? The bottom one we can leave. That might actually look a bit interesting, having like a shorter area or not. No, wait, sorry. Because I want to also have openings later on the bottom area. So I probably just want to keep it like this. There we go. And same over here. There we go. See, so now at least we have like quite a bit of space to just walk around. So you can go here. And now this area is going to be restaurants. So we will have like the semicircle and we are going to have restaurants. This area is going to be like all of the books, the bookstores and everything. This area over here is just going to be like some general stores. And for the rest it's just going to close off the building. So it will not have anything special. Just many flat walls and just like some lights and everything. And then of course in the center area, I don't know yet what I'm going to do. I think what I will do is I will just do like a communal seating style thing. Something like that. So just where people can sit and study and like what you often see over here. It's just going to be like this. So just like one of these things. Maybe like an information desk or something like that. But that will be in a time lapse if I do that. So yeah, this is pretty good. Now let's get started with this one. What we're going to do is we are basically going to go ahead and we are going to start with like the semicircle. Now the first thing I want to decide is if I want to probably make this go straight once more to give myself a little bit more space. So if I make it go like this over here, see? Because if I go already as a bend over here, everything becomes a little bit more cramped. If this one would already be like this, for example. Yeah, I can't really show you right now because I don't have the proper model. But if this would already be like this, you can see that when you walk in here, it just feels wrong. Like it is really cramped and I don't like that. So instead we have this. And now what we're going to do is we are going to go inside of Maya over here. We are going to grab our floor block tick. And actually that makes me now think about something. So that means that we would also need to create like a floor block tin. Yeah, that should not be too much work to create two of them. So we got this one. Let's duplicate it and add this to its own layer and just call this floor block. Come on. Sorry, my keyboard is being strange. Tick underscore bend. Over here. And now what I want to do is 5. I want to set this to... No, not this one. I always get confused by which axis I need. 10 over here. So that they are too long because we made them too long. And now what we want to do is we basically just want to simply bend this. Now you can decide on how large you want the angle of the bend to be. I already know because I did like some testing and I want to have it be 15 degrees. A bend of 15 degrees. And basically the larger the degree, so if you go for example 25, the smaller your bend will be. So 15 degrees will get it like somewhere along over here. And then for example, if it would be 25, it would be like a lot more curved. If you would only do 5, you would get like a much larger curve. So I found that 15 is the best one. Basically, for this, you simply go to edge mode and you need to add a bunch of segments over here. You can do this simply by going to here connect. Or you can find it in your mesh tools and then here connect. And I'm gonna go for like... Yeah, actually, this one will most likely be turned into final right away. Probably, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe we will just duplicate it. So let's leave it at 10. I think for the final I want to have like more segments, but we'll see. So this one is going to basically bend like this. So we only need segments on these areas over here. And now it is as simple as grabbing a bend. So I have it in my custom shelf, but you can also go to the form, non-linear, and grab a bend over here. And let's get started by setting the curvature to 15. Then you want to set your, I believe it is the high bound to 0. Almost. Low bound. Set the low bound to 0 over here, because we don't need anything like that. And now you can see that you can freely move around this bend transformer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to snap rotate by holding J, so that it is exactly 90 degrees like this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to snap the points, or actually no, let's do snap the grid, and I'm going to snap it to the grid over here. And then just to be sure, let's set your high bound to 2, to always make sure that it bends on the entire linie. And here you can also see that if I set my high bound, for example, to 10, you can see what happens. So you can see how that we are slowly going to bend this, and then we hit another point where it is simply straight like this. So with this bend, that's pretty good already. Like, we have the bend, that's fine. Now, pretty much at this point, I personally like to just keep it exactly as it is, and then I do like a little trick down here to turn it into like a normal floor. However, that trick will come way later. So for now, this is already fine. We can just go ahead and we can grab this, and I do want to not remove my history because I kind of like want to keep my bend on here for now. So I'm going to export this, call this floor block tick bend, and I will basically show you how this is going to look. So we got this one. So now if we go back into Unreal over here, we can go ahead and grab our folder, assets, floor block tick bend, and just import it like normal. So this is basically how it's going to look. Let's see. So I'm going to actually first of all make a change, and that is that I want to have this one end over here. And the reason I want to have it end over here is because I'm going to actually have like an escalator going down here to this level. Because what I like to do is a little bit the same as what you can see over here, that we have higher levels. So you can see that this is like a normal level, and then the last level, it will not have like another third story. It will just be like really large. And this will give us a really nice breakup, because if we make everything like this, it will just look like a parking garage. However, if we break it up like this, it will hopefully look a lot better. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just going to push these out or in to make them look a little bit nicer. And I will of course later on also have like a pillar sitting over here. There we go. And pretty much at this point what you want to do is, let's say that we duplicate this piece. I can then go in and I can go for block tick bend. And looks like that I just need to rotate this 90 degrees. Move it back, and as you can see, that will be a perfect fit. Like that. Once we've done this fit, now it becomes a little bit trickier to place it. Basically, all you need to do, so let's set this rotation to 270, is you need to go ahead and duplicate this. Then you want to rotate it by 15 degrees. You can see that I have snapping turned on. My snapping angle is set to 10 degrees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here and set this to 5. And we want to just basically rotate it by 15 degrees every single time, so that it properly aligns. And then what you want to do is you basically want to go ahead. Oh, it doesn't matter if I hide my floor, it's still dark. 1 second, let me... Dark gray. Here, let me do something like this, because the floor is a little bit too bright, so... See? Here, now I can properly see what I'm doing. Okay, anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically move this close by. And then I'm going to hold V. And what you can do with V is you can snap to vertices. And then often if you click once, it will already snap. So here you can see that I can snap to the vertices of my other model. This is once again one of those times where it is great to make a blockout. Because imagine if we have like 10 times more vertices here, because we already turned this to final, then we would not be able to properly do snapping like this. So we can now go ahead and we can duplicate this. Move this close. Rotate it by 15 degrees and press V to snap. And we can just keep doing this until we basically have a semicircle. 15 degrees. V, snap. 15 degrees. V and snap. And we're good. I think we need one more. $15 degrees. V and snap. Yeah, see, and now we have arrived at like the end point over here. And if you want, you can even test it out by quickly grabbing these pieces over here. And they should still all snap, because we've done this really evenly. So we should be able to just simply rotate this There you go. See, and still properly snap it all the way along here. Oh no, wait, there's like the tiniest change. Well, if there's a tiny change, all we really need to do is just for this one. I am rotating this. It's kind of dangerous to rotate it because you never know how your UVs are going to behave. But because we are going to probably use world space UVs, it does not matter, and else I will just rotate it back later on. But basically, as you can see over here, this now works correctly. And then at this point, we would go ahead and do this probably in the next chapter where we will create this area over here. But for now, all I need to do is I need to grab my floor over here, duplicate it. Sometimes a bit annoying where the pivot point ends up, but doesn't matter too much. And because we have snapping turned on, it should snap. If I come on, see, it's really sensitive because of the pivot point. There we go. See, it should snap correctly. And there we go. Now we have a semicircle in our floors. And what you can do then is you can just do like a quick play and just see. Yeah, see, that looks really large. So I'm totally happy with that. Yeah, I can go up here and you can see that. It's just like a nice semi-floor. And then over here there will be like closed stores. So there will be stores over here or like book sections and everything. But you will not actually be able to go inside. They will just have reflective glass on them. And that's basically like a time saver. And you can see over here, see, it starts to look quite interesting. And then if you go down here, there will be like really large restaurants. One of them or two of them I will probably open up. Or maybe more, I don't know yet. And yeah, you can walk here and then of course you will see like the side of the building here and that kind of stuff. So that is starting to look pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to duplicate my escalators because this is quite an important part. I'm going to have my escalators basically also over here so that people can go down from this floor to this area. Now it's always a little bit tricky over here because we are already sitting in the bend with our escalators. But it should not be too bad. If you just place this quite close to the wall over here and then duplicate this, I'm going to just have like a double escalator like this. See? That's looking pretty good. Don't know if it would be nicer if I add like the darker color. No, I think I'm just going to change my gray a little bit. Sorry, I like to always play around with this a little bit. I shouldn't do that during a tutorial. But it's like peace of mind just to play around with some small stuff like that sometimes. And then of course over here, just to make sure that people don't actually fall down, you would go ahead and you would like... this one you can probably even place in like the very front over here if you want. But that's something that we can like look at. So, just like that, as you can see, we have done that piece. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to, let's see, duplicate these three. Ooh, and then this transition, that's interesting. At this point, we are finally going to go ahead and... Actually, no, we can leave this one. We are going to transition this to be a wall plane over here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably move this down. Like this. And I will have probably like... I will probably embed this into the ceiling. The way that this looks over here. So for now, with this one, I might just carefully like scale this. Oh, let's see. Let's do snap scaling. And like 0.125. Like that, something like that. And there will probably be like a trim going all the way around here when we create our ceiling. Because our ceiling is going to be a unique mesh. So that's looking good. We got that also done. Now let's have a look. We need to create like some back walls over here to also go along with this. But yeah, this is looking pretty decent. I'm going to probably go ahead and let's make like a circular pillar. Yes, this one is way too thick. So I was correct with that. The dimensions do not properly port over from Unreal to Maya in this case. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to have like 2 support pillars over here. I think that will look nice. And then if we quickly go to Maya. We can go in here and I'm just going to kind of like scale this in. It doesn't need to be like a super even number or anything like that. So here we have our circular pillar. Export. Right click, re-import. There you go, see? That's looking a lot better. And then another thing that I want to do is I need to have a pillar. Let's see. Because there needs to be actual support over here. Because right now everything is just floating. And that would not be very structural. So I'm going to have 1 pillar. Probably like over here maybe. Yeah, let's do 1 pillar over here. And let's have another pillar. Kind of sitting down here, like midway point over here. And for these pillars, what you can do is you can pretty much just keep duplicating them. Ooh, that is very close. It should still be fine. So yeah, as you can see over here, I'm just duplicating them and that will instantly add some nice looking support beams. See? So that once again just makes everything look like a little bit more interesting. So that's quite nice. So we got those done. And then finally, what I will do is I will create like 1 extra pillar that I place down here, but I will just place it like halfway into the ground. And this will immediately also make sure that people do not accidentally like fall down the shaft over here and stuff like that. Because there's also always like a lot of safety going on and all that kind of stuff. So let's just leave it on 1 line and that should look pretty good. I don't know why I'm missing a floor piece over here, but okay. There we go. Again, I don't understand exactly where this is not going evenly. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. It's probably because I moved this wall further back. It doesn't matter, of course. Like, what we can do is we can pretty much just try and like line this up a little better. Yeah, maybe you can even use the pillar to kind of like just change the difference. But that's something I will probably like fix a little bit later. Okay, so in the next chapter what we will do is we'll just go ahead and continue with our semicircle.